When you see the Roger That cup on the table, that typically indicates that Roger Federer just lit somebody up. Roger Federer is off to a very hot start indeed. Just take a look at this tweet from fan of the show and friend, I might add, Joseph Court. Take a look. Roger Federer, this is his third hottest start for the first 2 rounds he's had in his long history at the Australian Open. Compared to the last few years, where Roger, of course, has won 2 Australian Opens in the last few years of the Australian Open, he has really sped up the process of these early rounds. The third round with John Millman maybe could be a little bit different. And Farzan, friend and fan of the show, wants us to do the same thing here. Of course, yesterday's show went up about 30 minutes before the matches start. Not ideal for coffee break tennis. But if you'll notice, I decided to sacrifice my hair today. I did nothing after getting out of the shower today with the hair other than a couple of magical soft hand touches to the hair.
He hasn't touched a lot of balls.
But I got rid of my letting the hair naturally air out, dry out process, my natural process, so that I could speed up the process of producing this show for Farzan and for all of you. And just like on yesterday's show, when we showed somebody from the crowd of the big match, take a look. Who showed up at the crowd? I once famously asked Grigor Dimitrov who is the most handsome player on tour. I think we have found the most handsome coach, a new coach on tour now. That's what I would have looked like on today's show if we had not sacrificed the hair prep for the speed of production, thanks to Farzan. You know, Fergoico said the other day to me in a comment that I got to start exporting at 1080 instead of 720 HD for the show. But honestly, if I did that, it would literally make the show, it would literally add like 2 hours to the wait on how long it takes the file to process after editing. So we won't be doing that anytime soon. Not until we get a new computer here. On today's show, we've got aggressive double faults. That's what Darren Cahill called Novak Djokovic's double faulting. Aggressive double faults. I will do a better job explaining all that nonsense from yesterday's show about Novak Djokovic's serve. And of course, we've got new data with a very good serving day with aggressive double faults. We'll talk about that. Plus, there were some very good comments, some very funny comments. We have to read comments today, even though one of the ways to speed up the process of making the show is to make the show shorter. So I'll try to make it shorter and get to some of the excellent comments from yesterday's video as well. Plus, we'll take a look at the draw. We are at the third round. We are really starting to see how things look. Of course, Roger Federer, all the seeds are pretty much gone. Hubie Hurkacz is now out of the tournament. And Matteo Berrettini got taken down by the Sandman. Plus, we'll take a look at Roger and Djoker's stats from the second round. All that and definitely nothing more on an expedited edition of Coffee Break Tennis. Also, another thing we do to speed up the process of producing the show is I don't go and wrangle up Mr. Goat because he can be difficult to get on board. He actually is kind of a lazy guy. Does a lot of sleeping, a lot of napping. I mean, take a look. This is this morning watching the replay of the Federer match. I woke up earlier. That's another reason why the show will be out posted much earlier today. I am adjusting the sleep schedule. I'm going to attempt to go to bed at 9 p.m. tonight. Good luck with that. But I have adjusted the schedule, hoping I would catch a little Federer, but Federer won too fast. So me and Mr. Goat were watching the replay this morning. Take a look. Mr. Goat couldn't be bothered after this shot. Look at this hot shot Roger Federer hit. He literally hit everything. Every kind of shot you can imagine, Federer hit them all. I have a theory on that we'll get to in a moment. But I tried to wake up Mr. Goat, and then he just reaches his arm out and then puts his head back into the leg blanket. So let's just jump right into, let's do Djokovic first, which Djokovic was awesome too. Take a look at this picture. Usually when you throw the racket, it's a joke, but the Djoker actually makes it hit the ball. Unfortunately, that doesn't count. Novak Djokovic looking very, very awesome. And there was one comment I'll go ahead and skip to. This is from Jay Williams, who starts off with, "You never had the makings of a varsity analyst." Of course, a great Sopranos reference. We had a little Sopranos reference in yesterday's show. I'm just breaking balls. Another Sopranos reference. Matt, love the Sopranos reference. On a more serious note, stop hyping up Fed's chances by highlighting Novak's poor serving numbers. It will hurt you and your followers a lot more when Novak spanks him, as usual. Talking about the semifinals, where we could see Roger and Novak Djokovic. And I just want to say that is not what I'm doing. If it was the other way around, if Roger had this same thing going on, I would talk about it. I would say, here's a problem for Roger that I'm worried about. Of course, Roger has the best second serve on tour and has for quite some time. But if it was the case, I would talk about it because here, that's the purpose of this show, Coffee Break Tennis. The first episode we ever did was to notify people right before Roger won the 2017 Wimbledon after he lost to Tommy Haas in his first match on grass for that year. And people panicked and said, oh no, we thought he would be the favorite of Wimbledon after winning the Australian Open. Now he's screwed. The reason why I made the first episode of Coffee Break Tennis was to bring to everyone's attention that that was the wrong way to look at it. And of course, Roger won Wimbledon without dropping a set after all that worry. That is why this show exists. We're here to look under every nook and cranny and make sure you have the best data and information to understand how these things are shaking out. It's really hard, as I said in yesterday's show, it's really hard to watch all the matches. Even I can't do it. But I try my best to look at every single thing and consider the conditions, the serving trends, whatever. Everything we can look at to try to understand what's really going on, who is really the favorite, who has an advantage, who doesn't, that kind of stuff. That's what we're all about here at Coffee Break Tennis, plus fun, 100% fun as well. So let me do a better job because I think it's because it's early in the year and maybe I'm a little rusty like a lot of people thought Roger would be. He's not rusty, killing his opponents, crushing them. Maybe I'm a little rusty and I'm not clarifying my points. I'm not communicating despite being a communications major who took 9 years to graduate from college. I'm not communicating as clearly as I normally would. So let me try again to explain this second serve business. This all started when I was watching Djokovic's opening round match on the ESPN3 or Watch ESPN app, whatever they call it now. They keep changing the name. And a commentator named John Fitzgerald was there. And he brought to my attention that Novak Djokovic is changing his strategy on second serve. He's trying to go a lot harder, a lot more aggressive. He's hitting the ball harder, more speed. Take a look at this graphic. Ironically, they cut from one match. I can't remember what they were showing on ESPN2 at the time. But they cut to Djokovic playing, and Darren Cahill says great serving other than 5 or 4 double faults at the time from Novak Djokovic. But they are aggressive double faults is what Darren Cahill said. And then they show this chart. Take a look. Djokovic on average hitting 124 miles per hour on the first serve compared to last year 118, 107 on the second, and 98 was what he was averaging. So that's a big jump. This is almost a double-digit jump on the second serve speed, 98 to 107 miles per hour. And then maybe Chris Fowler or somebody said, this is terrifying to opponents who already were afraid of Djokovic last year because now he's serving so much bigger on both first and second. And then right after they said that, he had another aggressive double fault, a 5th double fault hit right there. The commentator's curse. Now, I've said in the past on this show that when Novak Djokovic is more effective on serve, he's pretty much unbeatable. Where Djokovic is beatable is he's always going to get breaks of serve, but if he's not having a great serve day, you can win. You can break him enough to win the match against Djokovic. But if Djokovic is serving better, he's pretty much invincible. But more pace doesn't necessarily always mean better. I can think of how they were talking about in the Struff match, how Djokovic was going for bigger second serves, and then Struff was taking the pace and hitting a couple return winners with some of those faster, aggressive second serves. And then, of course, there's more double faults. One of the things in the Struff match, the first round for Novak Djokovic, was that Djokovic would purposefully start hitting softer second serves at times, at least he did a couple of times, as kind of a change-up because Struff was starting to find it. The reason why Federer's second serve is so good, I think last year or the year before, he averaged 61% win on second serve, which is just ridiculous, a really, really good number to average all year long. Anytime you're close to 60 on your second serve, you're killing it. The reason why Federer does so well with the second serve is, one, he mixes it up, and two, he has excellent location. On the ATP Tour, we see guys who can serve 115 and 120 all the time. That's commonplace. And Djokovic tends to have a flatter second serve than most, or he'll hit some slice on it like Rafa will do. This is a thing that Rafa and Djoker both, they're very lacking compared to Roger, where Roger can do all the stuff they can hit on the second serve, and more. And just having a little bit more pace, hitting 107 miles per hour on a flat or a sliced second serve, that doesn't do it. What really does it is something like what Federer would do, hitting 107, 108, 109. You might see a speed like that from Federer in a big moment on a kick serve where he finds the corner and gets it high and away from your backhand. Stuff like that is going to raise that percentage of win on second serve. And that's why in yesterday's show, I was highlighting what John Fitzgerald talked about, where he basically said, here's the essence of what I tried to say yesterday that I didn't communicate clearly enough, despite my 9 years of college not being a doctor. Djokovic is going for a harder second serve this year, but he is averaging so far, yes, the year is young, but at the ATP Cup, there's a lot of data there. Djokovic played enough matches where that's a sample we can look at with some seriousness. Djokovic won 55% on second serve. It's a good number. Last year, he averaged 56. What did he do? Much more double faults in the ATP Cup compared to his average of last year. I think John Fitzgerald said that Djokovic doubled. This is a bad trade. It's a bad deal. Let's make a deal. I make the greatest deals of all time. This one is not a great deal. It's a very bad deal. Winning, although just 1% less, but still anything less as a trade-off for more double faults on average. Double, I think is what Fitzgerald said. That's not a good deal. So it is something alarming, something to watch for. Clearly, if we look at the stats, Djoker, 5 doubles is not good, but 16 aces, okay, that's really good. It's not a problem yet. I'm looking ahead. This is what we do at Coffee Break Tennis. We watch the early rounds and we take the information as it rolls in and we look ahead to the big matches that, of course, are coming. So that was my main point. I think the way I mainly tried to highlight, I should have just made that clear yesterday, was that more double faults, winning less on second serve, bad deal. That's the main point. The main thing I was trying to show yesterday was how Djokovic's numbers at the ATP Cup, still important to add, I'll say it again here. The main thing at the ATP Cup for Djokovic's serving numbers was his first round and his last round against Nadal, he was like double-digit aces and 1 or 2 double faults. All of his other matches, lots of double faults. If you add them up, he's a 1-to-2 ratio. He had like 10 aces, not counting the first and last matches, which were really good serving numbers, aces to double faults. He had like 10 aces and like 20-something double faults in all the other matches combined. That is bad. That reminds me of, I think, 2009. I said in the last video, 2009 was when Djoker won he won in 2008, the first year that the courts were blue. And 2009, that would be one of the years where Djokovic struggled on serve, and that was the big issue, was that he was averaging many more double faults than aces. If that is a thing that happens in his game here at the Australian Open, anywhere this year, that could be a big problem for him. We had to address it. We had to talk about it. It's important. If it happened to Federer, you better believe I would tell you, and I would be very, very alarmed. But aside from that, Djokovic looked awesome. He should definitely be considered a favorite here. The favorite. Although, and this is why at the time, we are very consistent here at Coffee Break Tennis. At the World Tour Finals, which they don't even call it that anymore, but WTF, we'll never forget. Federer, he beat Djokovic. Remember that match? It kind of got a vibe like that from today's match. Federer came out on fire, hitting every kind of winner in the world, serving awesome. Federer came out and smacked Djokovic in the face at the World Tour Finals, and just knowing that he can do that, and that's what I said at the time, doesn't matter when Federer lost and he was out of the tournament. I said it doesn't really matter because Federer, at this point, it's not as big of a deal for him to win the end of the year championships, the World Tour Finals. It's more important that he just finally got a win over Djokovic after not having. Think about the ATP Cup. When Nadal and Djokovic go into that ATP Cup final, everyone's saying, Nadal hasn't beat Djokovic on a hard court since 2013. He's toast. Well, Federer had a similar stat where he hadn't beat Djokovic in a long time. And now, thanks to the World Tour Finals, no one's going to say that going into the match. They might say Djokovic is the favorite if we get that semifinal, but they'll also say, look what just happened. What if Federer does that again? And Federer knows he can do it. Djokovic knows it can happen again. It's very, very important. Well, in today's match against Filip Krajinovic, the Serbian, who I saw him, they had a 7-5. Take a look. Federer's played him a few times. He took a set off of Federer in Switzerland. I was there for that Miami match, sitting very far away, I might add. But it was still very entertaining. In that first set, it was very close. Filip Krajinovic really challenged Federer, and the Miami surface is pretty similar to here. The Basel, Switzerland surface, I believe, is the same exact surface now. The same company makes it. Obviously, different weather here in Australia. But we see that Krajinovic, he has a very similar style of play to Federer. He's just not as good. I think he's the same height. He's like 22 pounds less in weight, and that shows get a lot less firepower. That's the big difference. That's why Federer jumped all over him and kind of played like that World Tour Final match. Federer just on fire. If you look at the stats, Federer freaking 42 winners on 14 unforced errors, and a lot of those came in that second set. And again, we got to be consistent here. When Nadal had a couple breaks of serve against him, I said that that's not a good sign, despite Nadal crushing his first opponent. Federer looked awesome, but when that break happens and we get back to 4-all in the second set, that's a disaster. That's a little bit of catastrophe for Roger Federer. Lucky to get out of that set, especially because, here we go, cue it, the conditions. Take a look at this. Federer had an interesting situation. Yesterday was very hot, fast, on fire conditions, right? 90 degrees high yesterday. But look at when Federer takes the court a little after 8 o'clock, I think, or a little before 9, around there. Everything's nosediving, right? Or the temperature is nosediving. The hot heat is coming down quick. It's cooling off. And the humidity is, I mean, take a look at that. By 10 p.m., and Roger pretty much had this thing wrapped up. They were in the third set with Roger up a break or two by 10 p.m., I believe. But look at that, 99% humidity. Now, since it's cooling off, it's not like the U.S. Open where Roger lost to John Millman. But this is the most we've seen Federer sweat since the U.S. Open where Roger lost to John Millman. Just take a listen here to Roger talking about the conditions in comparison.
Roger, just on that in New York, we're not going to get that on Friday, unfortunately, from an Australian perspective, the weather conditions. But was that one of the worst feelings physically you've had after a match?
Yeah, definitely. I don't know where anything remotely close. I was just happy it was over. You know, I never had that. I'd rather like go back in time and say, if I could play that match again. But I don't have that feeling about that match. I was just happy the US Open was over and I could focus on other things and recovery and all that. I think it was a combination of many things that went wrong for me on that day. Plus the opponent was ready and tough as nails.
So my theory on why Roger came out so on fire and so aggressive, yes, of course, he's trying to save energy in the early rounds, but knowing, the team knew, okay, these balls, they fluff up, right? Well, they're really going to fluff up by 10 p.m. when the humidity is at 99%. Roger and the team knew going into this match, the conditions might be kind of fast in the beginning. You need to get out to a lead on this guy right away. We know in the past, Krajinovic has given you a little bit of trouble here and there. You need to smack him in the face right away, attack, because pretty soon you're going to feel like you're at the U.S. Open again getting cooked. Now, the difference with the U.S. Open, it was really hot, plus all that humidity, plus the weird situation with the roof. Here at the Australian Open, it was you had the humidity. That's why we saw right around that time. After that shot we showed earlier where Federer hits that forehand on the run, winner into the corner, it looks like he's going to break right there. I think that was 3-all or 2-all maybe. I think that was Federer up 3-1. I can't remember the score, but Federer does not break, and then he has to save a break point on his own serve in the next service game. And in that service game, you'll start seeing Federer's wiping his racket hand on his shorts. You see a lot more of this than usual. Krajinovic, every time they showed a close-up of Krajinovic's face, he was just drenched in sweat. Halfway into that second set, the full transformation had hit. We had pretty much hit the 99% humidity at that point, and that's why I saw a tweet saying, oh no, this isn't a great match from Fed, and it definitely was, actually. This isn't a great match from Fed. Look how much he was sweating. He looked stiff. I didn't see any stiffness from Fed, but yes, we definitely saw conditions slow down a lot, and we saw Federer very, very sweaty. The fact that he was able to come through this thing with look at Djokovic's score. Federer lost one less game than Djokovic, and Djokovic, he had some windy conditions. That wasn't ideal. But other than that, really nice, fast conditions for Djokovic earlier. Takeaway here, and Patrick McEnroe said, I think Chris Fowler asked him, did we really learn anything other than Roger looks pretty good and is fit and is moving well? Patrick McEnroe said, no, not really, because Krajinovic didn't bring enough to really test Roger. So we haven't learned a whole lot yet. But I'll say we did learn one thing. Roger Federer and the team, they really do consider, even though Federer says, I have low expectations and all that, it's bogus. I can tell. They really feel like this is their chance to win it. Here's another reason why. Take a look at this statistic that they put on the screen during the match. Look at how last year Federer tried to take the backhand. Remember, in 2017, everyone talked about the neo backhand. Last year, Federer was trying to take the backhand even earlier. And this year, look at that. See how that ball is lower? He's really taking the backhand on the rise, meaning after the ball bounces, it's still rising A lot of players who sit back, the ball rises, then it starts to fall again, and you hit it. Federer is now stepping in even more to take that backhand super early and get it while it's rising. It's even lower in the ascent, in the rising part of the ball movement, whatever. The way the team came out with this very clear game plan to get through this thing before the humidity hit, to not lose too much fluid and have to require more recovery for Roger Federer, knowing that, you might have a pretty tough Millman or Hurkacz. Both of those guys could be dangerous in different ways in the third round. And the way Roger is trying to take this backhand even earlier and be more like 2017, that tells me that they really fancy their chances here. And why wouldn't they? I've been saying for years now that the Australian Open is Roger's best chance to win another major. Quick look at the stats. Novak Djokovic winning 93% on first serve. No issues with serve. 56 is average from last year on second. That's a great number. Roger would like to see that first serve number higher, but how about, if you're close to 80 and then you win 62%, I think that's part of why Nadal, I think he won in his first round 70% on first, but had a really high second number, maybe 67 on second. So Rafa was fine, despite 70 being too low. Well, 77 is a lot better than 70. Roger obviously would like that a little higher, but 62% win on second is a really good number. We already talked about 42 winners on 14 unforced errors. Djokovic had 31 errors on 17 unforced errors, 11 less winners, 3 more errors. Fed wins that one, huh? And while Federer had his serve broken, which is an issue, I don't like seeing that. I will say when Federer has his serve broken, that's when the conditions are changing and things are getting very thick in there, and Federer's maybe having a flashback about that U.S. Open match with John Millman. Djokovic breaks serve, greatest return ever. He breaks serve 5 times. Federer broke serve 7 times, so more than making up for that one break, and that's why Roger... And let's be consistent. Rafa had a lot of breaks the other day, too. What did he have, like 8 breaks? Even better. All right, let's take a look at the draw, because things are shaping up and getting very interesting. For Novak Djokovic, he's got another Japanese guy, Yoshihito Nishioka, which I think he will win, no problem. And Duzi Lajovic and Diego Schwartzman. Schwartzman has been quietly making his way through, looking very good. And the lowest bounce in the world, maybe lower than Wimbledon this year. The ball looks even lower. Maybe it's because of the slower conditions. Maybe it'll go up. Djokovic, if he plays Lajovic, big-time favorite. He knows the guy's game inside out. They're both from Team Serbia. Maybe a slight edge. Lajovic knows Djokovic, but yeah, Djokovic will get him. Diego Schwartzman could be a really tough match for Djokovic, especially with low bouncing, slower conditions where Djokovic might have a harder time hitting through Diego Schwartzman. So just like slower conditions can hurt Federer in some matchups, I could see some trouble for Djokovic and Diego Schwartzman. That would be the 4th round. So let's see if Diego gets through Schwarty, if he gets through Lajovic, and if Djokovic gets through Nishioka. He will. Meanwhile, above that, who's going to be in the quarterfinal for Novak Djokovic? Well, Cilic came through Benoit Paire, unfortunately for us Benoit Paire fans. But a big test with Roberto Bautista Agut, who came through Michael Mmoh after dropping the first set pretty easily. Marin Cilic and Roberto Bautista Agut. Is Marin Cilic ready for the big time? I see Roberto coming through there. Tsitsipas could have a little trouble. He got a walkover. The Cult Pickle, the Cult Gurka, back problems, which the older I get, the more and more I experience back issues. In fact, Peter Freeman for Crunch Time Coaching, he's barely even playing tennis now because he's had so many back issues. So, hopefully Pete can fix that back issue and I can have a real victory over him at some point, not one where he's hobbled. Tsitsipas and Raonic, that could be tricky, but I fully expect Tsitsipas to win. Tsitsipas is going to be plenty fresh. He will need a test like maybe from a Roberto Bautista Agut, which is, if you think about it, pretty good warm-up for Novak Djokovic. There's a lot of reason to think what I said in the draw show. We could see Tsitsipas upset Djokovic, but that's getting ahead of things. You never know. The Sandman came through Berrettini. He will play Sam Querrey, fulfilling my... It already looks like we're going to see what I was saying. Kind of like how I said in the draw show, this is a lot like the 2017 draw where Misha Zverev was the quarterfinal opponent for Roger Federer. Remember, that was like a big shock. Like, whoa, how did Federer get this guy in the quarterfinals? And if Federer does make the quarterfinals, he could have Fognini. He could have Guido Pella, who actually didn't Guido Pella have like a really good Wimbledon last year? Everyone thinks of him as like a clay court specialist. either way, any of these guys is kind of a shock in the quarters. Maybe you could say Fognini is high enough ranked not to be a shock in the quarters, but the Sandman, Tennis Sandgren, or Sam Querrey, kind of a surprise and kind of a big plus for Federer if he makes it there. Fucsovics came through Jannik Sinner, but hey, Jannik Sinner did one round better than those Canadian fellas. But the champion of the next-gen ATP Finals will not go to the semifinals of the Australian Open this year. Not going to happen. That's broken. Tommy Paul beat Grigor Dimitrov. That was Tommy Paul. Let me just say this on the record is the U.S. version of Nick Kyrgios kind of. Watch Tommy Paul. He's got a lot of firepower on the serve. Obviously, not as much of a weapon as the Kyrgios serve. And he's got a pretty lively forehand, and then he's got like the bunt two-hand backhand, a little bit like Medvedev. It's a little pushy almost, but it's kind of cool what they can do with it and how they can change things up a lot, and then can rip on anything, a lot like Nick Kyrgios. So Tommy Paul is a lot of fun to watch, and Grigor Dimitrov, it was funny. At the end of that match, it looked like Tommy Paul was done. The commentators are already saying, I think Tommy Paul was serving 3-5 down. And the commentators are already saying, this is a good learning experience for Tommy Paul. He can really take a lot from this loss. And what do you know? He comes back and wins in a tiebreak. And he looks injured. Tommy Paul, they're talking about how Tommy Paul doesn't have the fitness, another Kyrgios thing. And then all of a sudden he kind of reminds you of Andy Murray. The guy looks toast, and then he freaking wins. So Dimitrov out, disappointing for him again. Another person we were going to be scared of. Oh, Dimitrov beat Federer at the U.S. Open. He's going to do it again. No, he's gone. Marty Fucsovics, could be a little tricky, but again, this is a lot different than Federer running into a super hot El Chapo, the baby. So Tommy Paul, who's going to be dead, I doubt he gets through Fucsovics. If he got through, he's totally toast, easy for Federer. If Fucsovics gets through there, I expect Federer to win that. But here's the big problem. Let's look at what's ahead. John Millman. That could be tricky. Listen to Roger Federer talk about the matchup with John Millman.
Practiced a lot with him. I almost passed out when I played against him in your city in New York. It was so hot. He had no problem. He's from Queensland, so it was like normal stuff. He never came to check on me if I passed out actually after that match, but I didn't. I'm here, and I played him in 2 other times, I believe. Once in Brisbane. I almost lost that one too, and then another time I think in Halle last year maybe, or 2 years ago, I'm not sure now. But no, like you said, he's a super good guy, unbelievably tough opponent. There's not many guys fitter than him out there, and those are the guys I respect the most actually, because he gets absolutely the most out of the game, and I hope it's going to be a great match with some great rallies, and I hope you guys enjoy it.
Well, we all respect you, Roger Federer. It's a true pleasure. Roger Federer, everybody.
Roger Federer has been very funny lately. He's very, very relaxed here, huh? McEnroe has been very funny, too. Those have been the two funniest personalities at the tournament. The other night, McEnroe was joking around about dinner in the Nadal household, where it must drive Rafa's wife crazy because Rafa's moving the wine bottles around the table the entire dinner. Chris Fowler had to interrupt Johnny Mac and bring him back to the tennis, just cut him off and change the subject. Very harsh. Johnny Mac also talking about the horrible Nike outfits, just like me. Anyways, John Millman could be tricky, but here's the difference. As humid as it could get, and honestly, last night I think Federer drops that second set if he's playing John Millman. Luckily for Federer, Krajinovic is more like a Federer-style player who doesn't have enough firepower to really hurt Roger Federer. Unless you see, like we have seen in other matches where Federer is not having his best day, then Krajinovic can win. That's why Federer came out hot. I think John Millman does not beat Federer here at the Australian Open, but like Darren Cahill said, Darren Cahill expects Millman to take a set off of Federer, and I would say it is possible. And hey, not bad to have a little bit of a challenge. That is enough of that. Let's read a couple comments, and then we'll get out of here. I think you guys know where things stand. Djokovic, Federer looking very good. A little bit of worry for the Djokovic second serve thing. A little bit of worry for Federer on how are the conditions. If it's super humid when he plays John Millman, I agree with Darren Cahill. You very well might see Federer drop a set. But that draw looks pretty good if Federer can get through Millman. Hopefully he gets a day session match with hot heat and low humidity. From the LSB, one of the favorites here at Coffee Break Tennis, Matt, why on earth would the ATP make these awful balls the official balls of the tour? Why would anyone make balls that fluff up this fast? Why would anyone choose these balls? Why don't the players complain? Talking about the Dunlop balls, I have a long record of not liking these balls, playing in the tennis leagues that I play in. Because a lot of times in our league matches, you open one can. It's not like an ATP match, not like a pro match where you open up multiple cans of balls. a lot of times in our matches, because whoever hosts has to provide the balls, and they just bring one can, and that has to last 2, sometimes 3 sets. And I have always known for years and years that if someone shows up with Dunlop balls, I'm like, oh my God. And I want to offer, how about we open a can of my nice pen balls? But then you think like, don't do that, because then they might start thinking that you really hate Dunlop balls and it's an edge for them. So the way to get around Dunlop balls, because if you don't bring a can and they break out the Dunlop balls, you know, like, okay, if we go 3, these balls are totally dead, lifeless balls. And the only way I've been able to combat this is to say, like, at the start of the second set, like, hey, I can open a new can of balls. Would you like that? They're not Dunlops, I'm sorry, they're a pen, but could I open these since the other balls are kind of dead? But Dennis, who commented below that, he nailed it. It's all about the money. And the answer to the other question from Lida is, why do the players not complain? Because they know it's all about the money, and the tournaments have to do whatever they do to remain financially viable. So the players just know, okay, this is what we got to do. Although players do complain about balls. Rafa famously complains about the balls at Cincinnati, or he did in the past. Eddie Style, I literally expected El Chapo to be writing in his notebook in the crowd. And hey, Matt, I'm taking German in college. How do you know German? I started learning German years ago because I thought if I ever had a chance to interview Roger Federer, and I didn't understand how different Swiss German was, although it's close enough, I would want to be able to speak a little German, or when the German press take over, I'd want to kind of understand what Federer was saying better. I literally started learning German because of that, was my thinking. I have kind of stopped learning, though, yet I still remember a lot because I was really devoted to learning German for a year, so I just remember a lot. I don't really learn any new German anymore. I mainly forget. This one is great. This is from Juris. I'm guessing he's Latvian. He says, Gulbis the pilot in Latvia sometimes is called the librarian. Many of you may know that Ernest Gulbis, you know, they used to talk about this years ago when Gulbis was lower ranked. Well, he's still pretty low ranked, but when he was coming up in the lower rank, to say he flies in a private jet like the top players, like a Federer. But he's not making that kind of money on tour at all. Why is that? It's because he is the son of a billionaire. He's from a billionaire family. And they call him in Latvia, according to Juris, the librarian, because his family built a house that they presented as a library to pay lower real estate taxes. That is awesome. Gulbis, the librarian / pilot. BR1729, I don't want to talk about conditions for the entire show, quoting me. Matt, sure you do. It's typical of your pre-excuses for Fed. No slams in 2019. I'm sorry, but it's a big deal. Clarissa Wood corrected me. It was 2008 when Djokovic won. Of course, 2009 would be the horrible Rafa beats Roger and Roger cries year. I was posting earlier, look how handsome Janko Tipsarevic looks, and the pine clops. He guessed why I like Janko Tipsarevic's new look so much, although I didn't have it today. All right, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this show being out earlier. Quick update for you tomorrow. There will be no show because I have to go teach the Munchkins. One of the things I do during the Australian Open is I don't teach, except for my one class, which is indoors that I can't skip, and that is on Thursdays. So there will only be a podcast for the patron saints tomorrow morning because I can produce that much faster. If you want to help me when I'm not taking in much money at all during this month, watching all the tennis and not teaching tennis lessons, plus it is pretty cold. If you want to help the show go and grow, go to patreon.com/Coffee Break Tennis. Of course, you get our bonus shows and podcasts there when you do that. And you can help out the show by being a member of the team. Like I was just saying, I don't teach this time of year, so I can have the free time to watch tennis all day and make shows the rest of the day. I literally have like a 3-4 hour window where I'm not either watching tennis or making the shows for 2 weeks. And YouTube ads only can cover so much of my living expenses in these very important periods. So patron saints, thank you. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you for everything you do to help support me and Mr. Goat and keep Coffee Break Tennis going. And for everybody else, we will be back on Friday for you. See ya!